Hey, what's up guys? Hamster here, the TechRodent, and today I have for you a TechRodent reviews the Asus Fonepad 7 Asus's try at a 7-inch tablet that also makes phone calls. Now if you're unfamiliar with this device, this is actually the second generation of the Fonepad series, well, at least in this form factor. So what has changed over the course of one generation? Well, for starters, you get the same 1.3 megapixel camera up the front, except that now it does 720p video. You will also notice that the speaker grill has been moved from the back of the device over to the front of the device, so you have a a stereo setup of left and right. Let's flip up the back. You notice that they've gone away from the metallic kind of pale looking back with the plastic plate up top in favor of a more glossy design, which is not entirely smooth as well, as I'm not sure how visible it is in the video, but it does have sort of rings around it, which you can feel if you sort of rub your, well, fingernails or your fingers against it. So what else is there? Over on the left, well, the right of the device, we've got the power button, we've got the volume buttons, and we will notice that the micro SD slot has moved to the side of the device rather than the top ports in which it used to have. Over on the left hand of the device, it's where it houses the micro SD card. The device also comes in slightly lighter than its predecessor at about 14 grams lighter at 328 grams. Apart from that, you've still got the same 7-inch panel, you've got a 1280 by 800 display, but the internals are knocked up a little bit more. To be honest, the previous generation Fonepad was a bit underpowered. It had a single core Intel chipset, which it was pretty good, but it wasn't good enough. It had a single core dated PowerVR GPU as well. So what does this new device have? Well, I'm glad to say that it has the Intel dual-core Z2560 running at 1.6 GHz each core, together with a PowerVR SGX 544 MP2, which is a significant step up from the previous model. So overall, the build quality is good. I like it. It is relatively solid. I'm not a fan of glossy backs, and I know not many people are, but well, it doesn't look too bad. Just, you gotta wipe it down every now and again, and you can tell this is not an entirely new device. If you're looking at scratches on the screen, that is a screen protector, and that is what happens when you give your dad a device to try, for a week, and scratches come off. So let's boot up the device. Hold it down for a while and it vibrates. Intel and Asus. Well, startup times aren't the fastest, are they? But it's pretty simple. No really overly flashy boot animations, no really irritating sounds which accompany it, so that's always a good thing. But it does take a slightly longer to start up than most of the devices I'm used to these days anyway. Alright, so we're here in the user interface, and this is not a pure AOSP interface, but rather Asus's sort of light skinning over the entire device. There we go. Overall performance and the user interface is really smooth. Let's take a look at the settings over at About Tablet, and you can tell that it is running Android 4.2.2, and it is very smooth. Over the course of me using this, well, I'm quite happy with this device actually. It's coming in at its price point. It is an extremely value for money device. That's all I can tell you. You get a lot of things bundled together with it as well. You've got a Amazon Kindle. Pretty much everything which you see on the top there is installed by me, and everything else comes with the tablet. You've got Audio Wizard, which is pretty interesting. It gives you different audio modes, but to be fair, you can't. It's one of the things where you set it once and you won't ever touch it again. It has Asus's own interpretation of a calculator, which, to be honest, looks pretty cool. You have what looks like a stock AOSP browser, though I could be wrong. You have Asus's own interpretation of a clock, which is pretty nice and animated, and I really like it as well. Let's see what else we have here. Download manager, galleries, their own interpretation. It's pretty funky. It's not too bad. We've got messaging. We've got, well, pretty much the usual stuff you take a look at. Photos, for one, is Google Photos. Phone, dialer. That's pretty much it. Oh, one more thing. They do have something called Splendid. And as you can tell, I've already got my Splendid set up. So it's a pretty interesting thing where you can set the vividness of a display. You can change the temperature, whether you want it slightly cooler or you want it slightly more redder. I like the more cooler with vivid turned on. So if you're not happy with the display's color settings, you can always change that. Let me just drop the brightness down. Hopefully you get to see it a little bit better over the reflection of everything else. Let's fire up Antutu, and I'll show you the specifications page. Then we'll move on to other things. As you can tell, I've run this before. It got a very respectable 17,411 for a dual-core device. Bear in mind, of course, that other similar devices like the MediaTek MT6589T devices have a lower resolution, so that's a bit of a handicap on that end for them. So as you can tell, the processor, everything checks out. PowerVR, SGX, you've got the cameras, you've got battery levels, you've got operating systems, 4.2. Let's run, I've already run 3D Mark on this. But let me just show you the test results for 3D Mark. Sorry, 3D Mark always takes some time to load. It scored really respectably in 3D Mark, to be honest. The FPS with which it generated for Ice Storm was about 30 frames per second, and it dipped maybe to about 20s here and there. Very, very, very good score. Let's move on to the others. Oh gosh. Ice Storm Extreme, we have 3,537. And you can tell the FPS sort of dipped a little, but bear in mind that this is a very extreme test, so not many devices score very, very well in it. In fact, even the Note 3 has its own troubles scoring well in it. You can tell it got 32 FPS with a 18.9 on the second one. Apart from that, Epic Citadel. Epic Citadel is one of those tests which I actually like a lot more than other standard tests, because it actually sort of gauges real-world gaming performance on the tablet rather than, really benchmarky sort of stuff. You can tell the stereo speakers are at work there. Let me just check what settings I'm on right now. Ultra high quality settings. Alright, you can tell even at ultra high quality settings, it is really, really smooth performance wise. Let's run a full benchmark on this. You're getting a good 30 FPS on ultra high settings. That's pretty good. Right now it's going up to about 60 FPS, and there seems to be an FPS cap for this device at about 60. It may have something to do with the processor, but I am not really sure about that. Why I say this is because the MT6589T devices seem to have a FPS cap at about 51, whereas this device seems to have an FPS cap at about 60. Yeah, everything runs really, really smoothly, even at the highest setting in Epic Citadel. I'm just gonna put it out there. You guys are not going to have any troubles playing games in this device. If you do, it's probably because, you know, the game is crappily programmed. You know, I'm just saying. Other than that, you know, you're getting a lot of bang for buck for, well, this device costed about 700 ringgit in Malaysia, so you're looking at about, let's see, 220 American dollars for this device. You can probably get it cheaper in the States, but to me that's really a bargain for this kind of performance. If, let's say, you don't have access to the Nexus 7s, to which, you know, I can't get them here as cheaply as I can this device, and, you know, this device does GSM calling, which my dad likes. So as you can tell, I got a respectable 43.1 FPS, and if you're wondering why the resolution is 1280 by 736, that's because it's not rendering the bottom half of the device. So you can tell these on-screen keys, that's pretty much taking up everything. So let's quit that. In terms of mobile and data signal, I'm pleased to say that I'm really happy with this device. It has gotten really good Wi-Fi pickup. It has got really good mobile signal pickup. And I'm pleased to say that I've used Asus's tablets before. I came from an Asus Transformer Prime, and I was not very pleased with that. However, this device does really well in terms of GPS. It got a GPS lock in less than 5 seconds. I used it perfectly as a navigation device, and it worked perfectly fine. So what else do I have to say about this device? To be honest, it is quite a steal for what it is. The display isn't as beautiful as a lot of other, you know, devices out there, but you have to consider its price point and what it's pushing at you. Now, the one thing I forgot to mention is the camera. Now, the camera is sort of similar to the interfaces you'd find on, you know, HTC devices post the HTC One, where in the main camera screen you have the shutter button and the video record button all in the same place. And the nice thing is that when you're taking a video, tapping to take photos takes photos at the full 5 megapixel resolutions as well. Overall photo quality isn't too bad. It's not the best, but I'm not sure how many people are going to go around taking photos with a 7-inch tablet anyway. For a more in-depth review and rundown of the device, visit my website in the link down below in the description. And thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review and have a nice day.